I know it has been a long time since I've seen you, but you're looking good, my man.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
So they got you running around the world these days still, or what?
Well, not for the last year, but before that, yes, quite a bit. Arizona, California, Nevada, 2 markets in California. So I went through Apple Valley a couple of times too, actually.
Nobody ever stops. They always just drive by.
That's true. Is there, what is there, like 3 exits? No, I'm kidding. When I drive to, every now and then I decide I'm going to drive to, Orange County, and then I do it. And I'm like, why would I ever do that again?
Right. I know. Well, for me, I still drive out every week here, but it's an hour and a half back to Ontario. So it doesn't make sense to fly when I drive here in 2.5 hours. So
Right. You're right.
up from Apple Valley every week now
You just can't go back Sunday, right? You're going the opposite way though.
I'm going opposite, so it's really great. Yeah. Good. Well, thanks for letting me into your shop today.
Well, we're excited to have you. If you guys don't know Tony Smith, real estate extraordinaire, real estate agent for years, and now you're VP over there at Mike Ferry, right?
Yeah. Bunch of changes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I love it. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about strengthening your listing presentation. So I've got 12:59, so we'll give them like 30 seconds, then you can get going, my man.
Yeah, we'll jump right in. And then what we will do on this, Rick will, like always, we'll get the notes over to you. So you can just
Perfect.
Those. We'll get the notes. You can send them out to everybody. And then we'll have, this thing goes, 45 minutes or so. We'll have time for questions at the end. And if anybody's got anything that they'd want to do, I'm happy to answer whatever I can.
Okay, great. Love it.
So.
Love it. And just so Mike loves to know the numbers, we just hit 100 people. So it'll keep going up too.
Excellent. Yeah. Mike, you've known him a long time. You know how he is about numbers. There's no messing around with that.
Oh, no, he loves the numbers, and rightfully so. Also, this is being recorded and it'll go on my YouTube channel for life too. So.
Awesome. Good. Yeah. Good chance for people to look later if they're not here today. So how many agents total are under your guys' wing right now?
Okay. So we have Nevada, we have Las Vegas, we have Arizona, mostly Phoenix, Scottsdale, down to Goodyear, over all the way to Sedona. Actually, we even have Tucson and what's the other one there? I always forget the name of that one. Anyway, then we have Orange County down to Temecula, over to the desert as well.
Wow.
So yeah, there's like 32 offices totally with about 3,500 agents.
Very nice. What a great group. It's awesome.
Yeah. My joke is the size has doubled since I've been here, but I'm not taking the credit. All right, my man. Well, you can take it away, ladies and gentlemen, from the Mike Ferry organization. And the great thing about Tony, he was a real estate agent for years. By the way, wait a minute, does this fracture your Cal Ripken prospecting deal or what?
I took this job. I haven't sold a house in 7 months now. It's the first 7 months in 33 years that I haven't sold any real estate. So, yeah.
Wow. How many days did you go a day without prospecting? Tell these guys.
My streak ended at 3,671 consecutive days. Yeah. So.
My kind of guy. Take it away, Tony Smith.
Well, thank you. There's one thing that I've noticed, and the first little thing that happened in transitioning to this part of the world in this job is there was a little thing that was kind of disappointing to me in a way. I had always blamed everything on us realtors. I'm still a real estate agent at heart all the way through, right? And I used to blame all the failing real estate in so many ways on real estate agents. But after coming here and having the experience with the 106,000 brokerages out there, there's like 106,000 brokerages in North America, and seeing how most brokers behave in providing services for their real estate agents, backing all that stuff, it has been the biggest shock and disappointment to me, basically, worldwide. So for those of you watching today, you have to appreciate what Rick and what Mark, what is happening here. For a company of this size to provide these kind of services and benefits, to back you and support you in the ways they are, is unheard of. So if you ever thought you were going to look over the fence and find something better over there, just trust me from what I've experienced, don't. I mean, this is unheard of today, and just, letting us come in today, right? So thank you for that. Thank you, Rick, for the work you're doing, for sure. Okay.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
So we're talking about listing presentation. You know, I remember playing this day, and Rick was probably in the meeting. We sat there. It's been, 30 years ago. We were sitting in a meeting, and I remember Mike saying, write down prospecting, then right under that lead follow-up, and then write listing presentation. Circle which one's the most valuable. And me as a young budding prospector, I'm circling prospecting like this, and I look around and everybody's circling something else. And Mike says, listing presentation. The listing presentation is and always will be the single most profitable thing you learn to do. And so we have to expect that a little bit and understand it. But here's the challenge. The challenge is most agents spend a big portion of their career, get me more leads. How about more advertising, more prospecting, more leads? They spend this mountain of time and energy trying to stir up more leads, and they spend a little tiny fraction of their world trying to perfect their listing presentation. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, how much time honestly have I spent trying to perfect my listing presentation since I've been a real estate agent? It's the single most profitable thing you'll ever learn to do. Right? All the leads in the world don't amount to much if you botch it at the presentation. Right? All the prospecting doesn't really add up if you get there, you walk out without a contract, and somebody slides in behind you and takes the listing. Right? So we want to be clear on a couple things. Arizona, Nevada, California, and most of the rest of the US, if you get a listing today, are you getting paid? If you get a listing today, you're getting paid. I mean, I've never seen it in this. I mean, we have hot markets and down markets in a long career, but I don't know when I've ever seen this inventory extremity that's going on, that if you bring a good listing to market today, you're getting paid. And so when it's in that environment, can we afford to walk out without a contract very often? There's 1,000 wolves right behind you that'll raise the price, lower the commission, do whatever they got to do, and they'll get the listing. They'll sweep it right out from underneath you. So we're in this space right now, whereas as firm as I can be, you have got to master the presentation. Now, I'm going to say these words today just because we'll have some fun with it, but I'm going to use the words world-class. Okay. If you wanted to create a world-class presentation, and why I say world-class is because in the industry we're all involved in, world-class is not that hard because so few people are trying to become a world-class presenter, right? I wonder how many agents around North America today are having a discussion about improving their presentation right now. Practically none. Right? And so we're going to look at some points that are very specific in nature about how to improve your presentation. You're going to get a copy of these notes, so you don't have to write every word. Typical Mike Ferry, there's probably more material than I can get through. It's just how it works, when time is up, time is up. Okay. But let's look at some points about, and I'm just going to play with the word world-class if you choose to. Let's play with some words about having a world-class presentation for yourself. Okay. The first point Mike wrote down for us is you have to at some point understand the value of a consistent pre-appointment routine. If you ever want to be a great presenter, you have to understand the value of a consistent pre-appointment routine. It's so common today when we're all busy and we have a million things going on, and you look at your watch and you go, I have a 4 o'clock listing appointment. Let me get a few things done, return a few emails, return a few calls, do a few things around the office. Somebody calls in, you start handling a challenge, and then you look at your watch and you go, oh my God, I'm going to be late. Oh, I got to hurry up. And so the blood pressure goes up, right? You're driving across town 90 miles an hour. And of course you're going to hit every light on the way, right? And then you show up. I am convinced that probably 4 out of 10 listing appointments start with the agent knocking on the door and apologizing for being late. Like you have to consider how much that just weakens your sorry, I was late, traffic. I mean, how much does that weaken your stance in a presentation to be late? So everything from, getting all the materials in order, driving by the comps, out in your car, maybe practicing running through the script a few times, critiquing, reviewing the objections that you believe you might receive. A pre-appointment routine that works. For me, I had little habits and quirks in what I would do. I would always point at the ground when I walked down the walkway. My sign is going right there. And it was just a way for me to have a physicality. I'm walking into this house, my sign is going to go right there. And it was just a little thing for me to lock into the fact that I'm not leaving this house without taking the listing. It's part of a consistent pre-appointment routine. Okay. Do you have one for yourself? Do you have a pre-listing appointment routine that works? If not, you've got to create one. Okay. Number 2, I wrote down, if you're going to strengthen your presentation to world class, you have to accept the fact that some prospects are simply not motivated enough or can't physically sell the house. So the pre-qual is more important than ever. You know, we have to, natural instinct is when a market gets a little lighter with inventory that we just run out. It's a natural instinct. If somebody says they want a list, I'm going. Well, in today's world, the number of people that are maybe not as motivated as they need to be to do what it takes to sell, and maybe have whatever physical issues they have to be able to sell, we need to know that, right? And so right out of the gate, Mike is suggesting 2 points that we know that most of our competition doesn't do. Most of our competition doesn't have any kind of a pre-appointment routine. And most of our competition will not pre-qualify under any circumstances. They just run over and then try to work it out as they go. So we're already asking you to do things that 90% of the competition is not even going to consider. It makes you a world-class presenter. Point 3 on the list, to strengthen your presentation, and I'll be firm in this, okay? Presentations have got to move beyond casual. The industry's kind of going in the wrong direction when it comes to this idea between formal and casual with presentations. Now I get it. On a Friday, a suit jacket with a rock star t-shirt underneath is pretty cool. And I get it that the $700 jeans today with a hole in the knee are pretty awesome, but they don't belong on a listing presentation. Yeah. Okay, and it's gotten so common, it's almost becoming real estate acceptable to treat presentations casually. Well, just come on over. Why don't I come over this afternoon? We'll look at the home. I'll get an idea what you guys have done over there. Then I'll go back and I'll do my research and I'll let you know. Right? You have to consider the casual nature that the environment is moving in. We're asking you to stay formal if you want world class. If you want world class presentation, you have to consider pushing it to your best friend. Yes, right? Bob, I've known you for 30 years. We've done a lot of business together. However, I want to, and you deserve the best service possible. So could you bear with me and let me present in the most formal way that I know how to present, which is the best for you? We have to consider presentations moving from a casual nature, both mentally and physically. Do you ever catch yourself on that sure thing listing? The sure thing one you're running over? Of course, I'm going to get this listing. Known them for years. Run over, treat it kind of casually, and then get swooped out from underneath you. It's so hard, isn't it? Right? What do we have? An $8,000 average commission here in town or something? And 6, 7, 8,000. Are you casual with $8,000? Do you take $8,000 and leave it up on the bar at a baseball game someday and just come back and get it later? Do you treat that $8,000 casually? Right? Do you leave it hanging out of your back pocket when you walk through town? We don't treat $8,000 casually. We have to consider making sure that we treat everyone formal. Okay. I made a note, to strengthen your presentation, there's only one way it can be world class, is if your listening skills are really good. So the only way you can ever get to that level of presenting is if you're able to listen intently and to try to really understand where the seller's coming from. And there's only one way to do that, is to master the dialogues, right? So if we don't ever master the dialogues, we never hear truly. You know what I'm talking about when you're presenting and you're sitting in front of the seller and you're there and the seller is talking, you are listening, but the only thing you're listening for is to try to figure out what to say next. You know what I mean? when you're listening and you're trying to figure out, okay, now what can I say to bring this conversation about the backyard renovations? And how can I say something to bring it back to where they'll really see that I'm a good agent and they'll want to sign the contract, right? Right now, how good are your listening skills? Are you able to sit in a live environment in front of a live seller and truly listen to what they're saying? Or do you sit in front of a seller listening in order to speak? Okay. It's a little nuance, right? You know, I've always been taught that if you want to be the smartest, the best, most professional sounding agent in the world, you need to listen to what they say and simply ask questions. If you do those two things, you become the smartest real estate agent they've ever met. Interesting, isn't it? I wrote down next. We all have one. We all have that performer. You know, your favorite musician, your favorite comedian, maybe your favorite rock band or your favorite actor or actress. You know that person that is your favorite, that when they perform, you feel compelled to stand up and give them a standing O. You know that person that when you're just out of your seat, the next thing you know, you're screaming at the top of your lungs. Well, if we ever want to be world class, why would we not want to try to create that environment for ourselves? I mean, I don't know if it's ever happened for Rick. It never happened for me. I never had a seller stand up and give me an ovation at the end, right? It's never going to happen, right? But does that mean that we shouldn't strive for that? Should we strive to be able to present in a way that the seller, that they're not going to do it physically, but internally they're there going, I have never seen a presentation that good before, ever. Like, why wouldn't we strive for that? What's the harm in reaching for that goal? Right? You have to ask yourself how, you know, if I get a chance to create a presentation in my existence in real estate, to what level am I going to create that presentation? Do I want to be vanilla, average, so-so, just get by? Or do I want to create a presentation that they feel like applauding inside when they've heard it? Okay, just a little shift. Mike was clear on it. He said there's 3 reasons why we won't do it. He said there's 3 reasons we won't go on that journey to create a presentation. One is our ego gets in the way. You know, he's very clear that our ego gets in the way. Rick will attest to this because we've both seen it, and we've both seen it 100 times. The very, very disappointing and sad thing, okay, is to watch a very talented real estate agent make money, give it all away. Make money, give it all away. And we watch this window of time for 20, 30 years, and we were exposed to an agent that is like that, just kind of the highs and the lows, all because their ego won't let them learn a good presentation. It is so painful to watch an agent over a kind of a long career not really ever getting what they could because they won't go through the presentation steps because of their ego. Hard to watch. It's hard to watch. The second thing that Mike wrote down is we have to really recognize how hard it is to change our behavior. Isn't it much harder than you thought? Like, you know, you want to change a behavior. You know, I'm 54 years old. At 54 years old, if I want to change a behavior, it's so much harder than I thought. Any behavior, right? You know, you finally get it together. You go, that's it. I'm using this Mike Ferry listing presentation. I've been practicing it. This next presentation, I'm doing it. I'm doing it exactly like it's written here. You got it in your hand. You're walking up the walkway. You know, you knock on the door. The seller opens the door. You walk in, you say the cardinal sin of presenting, hey, how are you folks this afternoon? And then they start talking about how they are. This thing goes right out the window. And then an hour later, you're walking out of the house going, why didn't I use this? I said I was going to do it this way this time. Changing behavior is hard, isn't it? And so sometimes we approach these things like adopting a world-class presentation, and we approach it like, you know, hopefully I can get this thing knocked out by Thursday, you know. Let me get this presentation whipped out. If it doesn't happen in the next week or two, I'm over it. Let me move on to something else. Changing behavior is hard. So if you plan on doing this, you can't limp in. You can't come and give it a half-hearted try, or you're just going to get knocked back. You've got to commit. And the commitment is something that most people aren't willing to do. Okay. And then the last thing Mike pointed out, why we struggle with this, right, is many people cannot ever connect the goals they have to the changes they want to make. If you want to make some changes, your goals out there, the things you're setting out to do, have got to be so big and so strong and so exciting that it kind of forces you to want to make the change, right? It's either that or they have to be so painful, which is the other side. Some of you watching today may just honestly be in a spot where you go, that's it, I'm tired of being tired. This is so painful that you hit me on the right day. I'm going to change my presentation because the pain is so bad that I'm not going through another year with this kind of income. And sometimes that will cause you to change and actually adopt a world-class presentation, right? So let's look at something, our presentation is centered on something, and Mike's point is so clear about it, that our presentation, if it's ever going to be great, has got to be centered on asking great questions. At some point, you've got to shift from making big sweeping statements to asking great questions. Why? Because once again, our competitors, all they do is make big sweeping statements on a listing presentation. Okay, so far, our competitors don't have a pre-appointment routine. We want you to, right? Our competitors don't know how to listen and won't even work on listening. We demand that you do that. Our competitors will, they literally refuse to make a presentation that's questions, and we're going to ask you to do that. So do you see a little theme going on here? Little Mike Ferry theme? To have a great presentation, you have to virtually do the opposite of what your competitors are doing. Okay? If you want a world-class presentation, that's how you distinguish yourself. Okay? So right now, I want you to ask yourself, how question-based is my presentation versus statement-based? Be honest with yourself. Be honest. Do I present and I tend to talk about, hey, let me tell you about my marketing plan and here's what the company does, and let's take a few minutes and I want to describe how great our company is. Let me describe for you how we determine values, and let's talk about how I've come up with the price on your home, right? They're all just big sweeping statements, aren't they? Versus our approach, which is nothing but questions. So if you ever want world class, you've got to understand at some point that it has to become all about asking questions of the seller. Okay. There's presentations going on in Las Vegas, LA, Arizona today, right now at this moment, where the agent is sitting in, he's making some big grandiose statements, and the seller is sitting there going, yeah, this is what I expected would happen. This is how all realtors behave. This is how it's done. Let's listen to what they've got to say, and then we'll pick the best out of the worst. And that is what's going on in America today. So we want you to ask questions, okay? Point 7, I wrote down, if you really want to master this and have world class, you got to pay attention to the small stuff. Have you been critiqued on your ability to make eye contact with the seller? Have you been critiqued on your ability to smile in front of a seller? Have you been critiqued on your handshake? Okay, many people have not even considered. Have you been?
Let me call you after my meeting.
Have you been critiqued on your business attire? If you really want to become world class, you have to be willing to be critiqued on these things. Mike, I'll never forget it. Plain as day. Probably 20 years ago now, he said, Tony, you have a problem smiling naturally in public. What's your deal? I don't know. I had a problem with it. He said, whenever you smile in public, it comes off weird. Well, Mike's not afraid to point these things out, right? And so I'm going, weird? You're saying I smile weird? He goes, yeah, in public, you smile weird. Well, the truth is, I was smiling weird. I have a little nervous approach to that back then. So was I upset about it? Yeah, a little bit. But does it help my presentation? Okay. Right now, I have a coaching client, a well-known agent that's produced a lot of business for a lot of years. And right now we're doing a deep dive critique on his overall presentation. He sent me a video He sent me a video. He put his phone on, like on the other side of a door in his office, propped it up.
That's ridiculous.
And he sent a video.
How come he can get away with this all the time?
So, sorry.
Somebody is unmuted and I can't figure out who they are. Please mute yourself, everyone. We're hearing part of your conversation.
Was Rochelle. It's
Rochelle. It looks like a Rochelle.
Ah,
Oh my goodness, I muted it and I got a phone call and, oh shoot.
no worries.
Okay.
We're good.
I'm
Thanks.
sorry.
Just mute yourself.
Good, thank you. So, hey, I love this group. This group's not afraid to go, hey, mute yourself. I like it. That's my kind of people. But you have to consider the small details. This agent is actually videotaping and he's practicing opening the door, right? And the door opens, there's a camera on the other side. Thank you so much for having me over. I'm so excited about getting your home on the market and getting it sold for you. Do you mind if you guys set up at the kitchen table? I'd like to take a look at the house through the eyes of a buyer. I'm going to be back here in a couple minutes and I'm really excited about putting a great presentation on for you this afternoon. You know, we have to at some point be willing to be critiqued on the small details. You know, Mike Ferry's not afraid of it. Have we all been called out before for something, Rick? I mean, we've all been called out. You get called
I
out,
have.
right? Get called
Many
out for
times.
something, okay? You know, and it's not because Mike wants to be critical of you, but he wants you to make more money. So he pays attention to the details. Have you had a chance? Are you willing to look at the small details? You know, handshake. Have you ever had somebody shake your hand with the kung fu grip, you know, that tears your arm off? That's not much fun. You ever shake hands with a wet fish? That's not much fun either, right? We probably need to critique ourselves on the small details. Why? Because on the other side of it, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 every time. I'd be willing to face that for an additional 2 or 3 transactions a month. Why wouldn't we want to do that? Okay, and then the hardest one that we have to look at, we're going to spend some time on this because this is the meat of it right now. The single biggest reason that most people will never get to world-class level when they present is they cannot and will not accept a canned presentation. They just can't and won't accept it, right? And it's almost impossible. From my perspective, it's practically impossible to list a lot of homes for a lot of years without a canned presentation. Okay, now you can get something flashy and you can knock out 50 deals in 1 year, one time because of something flashy that you came up with, but sustainable, long-term, high-level production, it's impossible without a canned presentation. So we're going to look, okay? There's 5 or 6 things that we're going to look at as value. We're going to look at a couple reasons why we fight it, and we're going to look at what it's going to take for us to bring this on, all right? The first thing that Mike asked us to consider, why is this so valuable to have a canned presentation? Okay, 1, a great canned presentation is 100% customer oriented. It's 100% customer oriented. The presentation is designed from the beginning to the end to benefit the customer, right? Can you imagine, and I don't know if you've ever had this, in my early years, my presentation was so horrible. It was so pathetic in the early years. Have you ever had the good fortune of, you know, swinging away, you're talking about something that's so great and everybody needs to hear it, and you, out of the corner of your eye, you see Mr. Seller do this? Has anybody ever had the good fortune of, why are you talking about that now? What does that have to do with me? God, it's humbling when you see a seller like, oh, come on already, right? That is the example of the opposite of being 100% customer oriented. Right? A canned presentation creates automated responses. You know how the response is going to go. In a canned presentation, you pretty much can predict the response pattern, so you're so confident and comfortable there, right? So do you absolutely have to sell this home? There's only 2 answers, yes or no. And you have a response for either. So will you price your home at a price that will cause it to sell, or do you want it to sit on the market for a long period of time? Okay, they're either going to say, yeah, we'd like it to sit for a long period of time. When's that going to ever happen, right? Do you want me to go ahead and handle the sale for you? They're either going to say yes, no, or maybe, right? And so a canned presentation is designed for you to know that what the responses could and will be all the way through, right? How much fun is it to be at a listing presentation and have the wife nudge the husband, go, "Hey, Bill, did you tell Tony about the lawsuit? How much fun is that? What lawsuit? Oh, we have a lawsuit. We can't sell the home for 3 years. What? Right? You ever get blindsided by, hey, I forgot to tell you about our 3rd, 4th, and 5th mortgage? That's always exciting to find out live, isn't it? Right? And a million other things that you don't know what the response is going to be. That is the opposite of a canned presentation, right? I wonder how many of your competitors have been on a listing appointment today, and when they knocked on the door, they were going to start discovering everything in that moment, right? So guys, tell me where you guys are moving. Now that I'm here at your house, where are you guys going to be moving to once you sell this home? How much do you guys owe on this anyway, right? Do you believe that most of your competitors are finding out the whole process while they're there live? Pretty hard to complete that transaction, isn't it? Right? We're asking you to have a canned presentation so you know all the responses in advance, okay? Right? A canned presentation flows. The value of a canned presentation is that it flows. It has if you look deeply at our presentation, we have a 1-minute presentation. If they want it fast, we give it to them fast. This is the psychology, right? We got 3 questions. If they want it fast, we give it to them fast. If they don't accept fast, we take it away. So at the end of my presentation, one of 3 things will happen. Number 1, you'll have the opportunity to list your home with me. Number 2, you may decide not to list your home with me. Number 3, I may decide not to take the listing, and any one of those is fine. So now we've taken it away a little bit, haven't we? So psychology, give it to them fast if they want it, take it away if they don't accept that right away. So let me go through the questions that I ask you on the phone. Our presentation is now designed to show them that you've been paying attention to everything. You're going to go through and hash the things. If you notice our pre-qual, it says the words "you said." Like when we're going through this, you said you wanted to move back to LA. You said you had to be there by April. You said you wanted to price. Do you know what the words "you said" are? It's confrontation. So now we're going to confront them a little bit. You said you wanted to do this. You said you wanted to do that. You said you owe about this money. This, basically not me telling you. You told me what you wanted to achieve. Can you see the psychology? And the psychology causes this flow right to the landing where they sign the contract. That's a world-class presentation. Okay, so let's look at why we resist it. And I want you to really, as you hear these, I want you to put a mark, or I want you to identify which one rings with you. Okay, so either right now you have a 100% canned presentation or you don't. Is there any confusion with the 100%? Like 100% is pretty clear, isn't it? You either have a 100% canned presentation or you don't. Okay, if you don't, and you're resisting it in some way, let's see which one. You don't have to say it out loud, but let's bring it to the surface for yourself. Which one of these things is why you resist it? A, our ego stops us because we believe we know a better way. This is one major reason why a lot of people won't adopt canned presentation, is because their ego, that I've got a better way than that. I like my way. Okay, maybe that's your number 1. Number 2, we're concerned that the script makes us look like a salesperson. Do you have some concerns about looking like a salesperson? Does your card say counselor? It happens, right? Sometimes we have natural concerns. We don't even want to say it out loud, like, we're salespeople. That's what we do for a living. We're salespeople. That's what we signed up for. But some people don't even want to connect to that. Is that you, maybe? I don't know. How about we've just never learned scripts? So maybe we just have never been in an environment to learn scripts at any level. That might slow us down a bit, right? How about we don't see selling real estate as a professional sales activity? Maybe we see selling real estate as a little bit more of a nuance or a little bit more of a relationship kind of an approach. We don't see it as a direct sales activity. Could be. Could it be that you've never canned a presentation because it makes you uncomfortable? Some people know they should do it. They've been wanting to do it. They keep talking about doing it, but they won't go through that 3 or 4 or 5 months of, uncomfort to bring it in. I wrote down, we've always let the customer control the conversation. Have you set yourself up where you like to go to the house and say, hey guys, show me around, show me all the incredible things you've done to the property. Hey, why don't you guys tell me, what are you guys looking for in a real estate agent? Help me understand, what price point were you hoping to price the home at? Some people were just trained to let the customer control it. I wrote down, scripts don't allow bonding. Is it possible that maybe you have a really deep-seated need to bond with clients? Some people do. Some people really want the connection. They want the high fives. Remember when we used to be able to give high fives pre-COVID? High fives. Remember when your clients would come up and hug you for doing great work? Yeah, now it's all this, right? Bonding. Well, I always joke with bonding because I say, do you ever get to be best friends or bond with the seller if you don't get the listing? Do you want to be best friends if they give the listing to somebody else? I'm not sure. Oh man, we gave the listing to John, but I want to be your friend. No, you don't, right? I'm not interested anymore, right? Because I do like long-term relationships with my clients. I love it when the great grandkids come and they sell their house with me because I worked with great grandma 30 years ago. I like that approach, right? But it's never going to happen if I don't get the business first. It's never going to happen. How about we're independent contractors? You can't tell me what to do. Some people will literally fight to the death just so nobody tells them what to do in this industry. Okay, maybe that's your reason, right? And then the last one, Mike always puts down, anytime we have these little lists, he always puts down at the bottom, the scripts might cause you to succeed and you may not like that. Possible. If you adopt a world-class presentation, you'll probably need a new tax person. You might need some new friends. Some of your friends might not make the cut anymore. Some of your family might get a little irritated with you making a lot of money. You might move to a different part of town, which means you have to find some new neighbors and new friends. Honestly, there's a lot of people that won't like doing that. They don't want to do those things. I'll just stay in my spot and keep it where it is and go to John, my tax guy. He's been doing it for 25 years and I just don't want to stir it up. It's called success, right? It's called success. So let's look at the positive side. Do you want to do it fast and do a lot of them? Do you want presentations to go fast and you want to do a lot of them? You need a canned presentation. Okay. If you want to do it fast and have a lot of them, it's got to be canned. I know Hal Swayze. I had my coaching call with Hal earlier this week. He's been selling 200 homes a year for 20 years, right? It's hard to sell 200 homes a year for 20 years if every one of them takes forever. These long drawn out presentations. Pretty hard to do high volume when it gets like that, isn't it? Okay. I wrote down, scripts will keep us talking about only what's important to the seller. A canned presentation keeps us in that little slot where all we're doing is moving the seller forward. We're just discussing what's important to them. Major. I wrote down, scripts provide consistency. When you see somebody that has a real job and they have a big high-power job, they make $400,000 or $500,000 a year, and the job sets them up that they funnel off a very specific amount of money every month to their retirement plan. And those people get to their, their 25, 30 year mark and they go, well, I'm going out, I get $29,500 a month in income from my retirement plan. So I'm going to go have some fun and get in the motorhome. Consistency with income. Canned presentation is what gives you that. Would you like to funnel a consistent amount of money into your retirement account? It requires consistency, which requires a canned presentation. Okay. The best agents I know have great big fat accounts and great big fat investments. And if you ask them, they'll say it's because I learned a presentation that works. Right. And then I wrote down last, The customer and the agent win. So a CAN presentation, the customer and the agent win. It's interesting, isn't it? So Karen Bernardi, anybody you guys know Karen Bernardi, she's world-class, one of the greatest of all time. She's still, $3.5 million a year. She's been doing it for, 30 years. But Rick and I are probably in the same meeting when this happened, okay? I'll never forget Karen Bernardi raising her hand in a meeting one time and goes, Mike, I sell a lot of real estate, but I don't know how to sell. And I'm sitting there, you remember this? I'm sitting there going, what are you talking about? Like, I've been looking up to you for 5 or 6 years. What do you mean? I don't know how to sell. And Mike says, what? And she goes, energy, enthusiasm, grit, working my butt off, whatever you want to call it, but I've never learned how to sell. What do I do? And plain as day, Mike said, do you want to learn a good presentation? Okay, I'll do it. He said, write it out every day for 30 straight days. Write the entire presentation every day for 30 straight days.
I think she did it for a year though, didn't she? Just to be safe.
Yes. And so this is the thing. And we're all sitting there going, gosh, maybe that's a good idea for me. I think I better start that, right? And
Yeah.
we're sitting there, we're all dumbfounded by it, right? And then Mike went on to say, well, first of all, if you won't at least commit to that, then I'm pretty sure you're not committed to getting better at selling. So that's the first step in proving to yourself that you're willing to do this. And then the second thing, in 30 days, you're going to know this presentation, which is a major step in the right direction for canning the whole thing, right? Profound. I think it changed her real estate business. I know it changed mine because that was the moment where I decided I better finally get my ducks in a row here and finally start learning how to sell, right? Next on the list, our presentation is beautiful because it works for everybody. Like this, it's one presentation. My best flipper client that I've worked with for a long time, I've sold 380 houses for him, flipping over the years. And when I first met him, it was an expired listing. He had a list with someone else that expired. I met him. He allowed me to come and meet him. The guy was worth $600 million at the time, right? And I used my canned, structured Mike Ferry presentation. And at the end, he goes, that was a great presentation. I don't think I've seen one like that. He gave me the listing and 400 more after. Okay, it works for that guy. It works for somebody that lives in a small entry-level condo. It works for a just listed, it works for everybody. So why wouldn't you just master one presentation that fits them all? I like that. Straight to the point, right? Okay. Mike Ferry centered this presentation around 3 things. When he built it back in the 70s, he built this presentation and it was centered around 3 things. A, I'm going to have my presentation built around knowing what questions the sellers always ask and answering those questions. So the presentation was built around, they always want to know how much, they always want to know how long, and they always want to know what are you going to do to get it sold. So he built the canned presentation around that. Okay. 2, knowing what objections the seller always gives and being able to respond to those. So Mike canned up this whole presentation so that he was sure that any objection that came up, he could respond to it, right? I haven't been selling in a while. I mean, it's, I've been selling in a few months now, but that stuff is all there. I have a friend in the business. I can appreciate that, and almost everyone does. So let me ask you, do you absolutely have to sell this home, or are you just looking to do your friend a favor? Obviously, you had me out for a reason, right? Do you feel I can sell your home? Just do the right thing. Simply sign the contract so I can help you get what you want and the time you want. Wouldn't that be great? It is so simple. It's stupidly simple. That's why it works. And then the third thing that Mike said he built his whole presentation around is having knowing the market stats and knowing how to deliver those if necessary. So he built this whole environment around those 3 things. Does it make sense? It makes sense, right? Okay. I'm going to have one more little point we're going to go through real quick, and then we'll open this up for questions, okay? So our Mike Ferry presentation is a 5-step process, which you've all probably heard multiple times, okay? It's 5 steps designed for you to win, okay? And this is typical Mike Ferry. What do my competitors not do? What can I do so I win? All right. And he designed it. Okay. We have step one, pre-qualify 100% of the time. Do our competitors do it? No. Do we do it? One step ahead, right? Mail out a pre-listing package, a nice, clean, non-ego pre-listing package. Do our competitors do it? No. We do. 2 steps ahead. Call back and confirm. Do our competitors ever think of that? No. Do we do it? We're 3 steps ahead. Show up mentally, physically, emotionally, on time, early if you can. Our competitors almost never do that. We do 4 steps ahead. And then use a canned scripted presentation, which our competitors don't even have a clue on. We actually have 5 steps to beat our competitors every time. So, you really have to consider for yourself, if it's been proven, if the 5 steps beat your competitors and you're always competing, why wouldn't you do that? Like, why would you not simply adopt that approach and have yourself win too?
Tony, and our, when you mentioned the pre-listing package, our VAC, we have it's a CRM for them. It has, we have the best looking pre-listing package. And I tell them always, the number one reason to use it is no one else does. So they have really that third point you gave about, market stats. If you add if you just add into the brand that we have as well. So by the time they show up, they're pre-sold. And then if they follow that scripted presentation, it's a breeze. It really is.
Yeah, and I think about what you guys have now, this service, this stuff is packaged up. You put in all your information, you get it set, the pre-listing package just be shot out, you do your research, shots out, and the quality of it. It's so, like, in our day, when I started, we were putting together, photocopy of a photocopy. They were horrible, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have all that stuff, and we had to put it all together every time, right? Copy and paste and all this stuff. Nowadays, the technology, it just shoots this thing out, and it's one of the best things known on the market.
Yeah, I jokingly tell them, I say, the only thing it requires is your information and a current picture. If you can't use it at the DMV, you can't use it on your marketing.
That's fair. That's fair, right? So it's so simple, right? So I hope this helps in understanding a world-class. I would like to think that, 160 people watching this today, I would really like to think that everyone here today made a decision like Karen Bernardi 30 years ago. You know what? I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to do it world class. I'm going to put in the energy. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to learn it. Why, learn it once and then just perfect it a little over time. That's all it is. Okay. So I've got some time. We open this thing up for questions. If anybody's got any specific questions about anything at all, please.
Hi, Tony. This is Jennifer Belcastro. I was asking for your contact information.
Oh, hi, Jennifer. Yes. You can catch me anytime, tony.smith@mikeferry.com.
Okay.
I do respond to that. So, if people reach out, you have something specific, a question, I'm happy to answer it if I can, for sure.
And then the pre-listing package, is that something you're going to email to us, or?
Well, the pre-listing package, like we're looking about right now, that the services that you guys have at the company you're in, all you do is put your information in there and it shoots these things out. So you need to take advantage of that. That could be created so much faster than if you went to try to build one on your own, like we've all had to do.
Is that in the VAC?
It's in the VAC 2.0, Jennifer. Yeah, we have incredible pre-listing stuff. But the list of what goes in it is in your success series. It's the same one that the Mike Ferry, it's basically the same stuff as he recommends. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, somebody said, let's see. Somebody said Flagstaff earlier, which was part of the areas you cover.
That's the one I forgot. Sorry, Flagstaff.
That's right. Okay, step 2 of the 5-step process, right? So step 1 is you pre-qualify 100% of the time. Step 2 is to mail or deliver that pre-listing package. Okay.
And where do we get the canned presentation?
Oh, good. So everything we have, and if you know Mike Ferry at all, you go to mikeferry.com and you go to resources and you go to scripts. We have every script and dialogue that we use. You just download it for free.
And the one that you're talking about is just named can presentation?
No, it'll just say listing presentation.
Yeah.
So it'll have, you can actually, they have it in there two ways. If they have listing presentation, which you get the whole thing, or you'll see it might say 1 minute, 5 minute, 20 minute, it's broken down. So you can print it out in parts. Our pre-qualification script is there. Download the pre-qualification script that we use. You know, virtually all that stuff is under the resources. You can download a ream of paper there if you want.
And the one that you recommend to write down once a day for 30 days is the listing
Listing presentation. And if you literally will write it, it takes you about 20 minutes. If you'll write it from start to finish and you'll write it completely out for 30 days, you can't help but start to adopt it.
Now you said there's a few in there. Which one is the one that you?
Well, what we have is just do the listing presentation. We actually have another where it's broken apart into 3 parts, but it's the same dialogue. Okay, just go to the listing presentation and print that out in its entirety.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
good.
you.
Great question. Good. So there's something that's going on, and I want to share with you something that I noticed. I just did all the final research from MFO for 2020. We all know the inventory has done this. The inventory shrunk, but what most people don't know is it also did this. So the inventory not only shrunk, but the gap between the haves and the have-nots in real estate has widened, right? And you guys know these teams are popping up, and you get these, 20 and 30 person teams. So a new agent, if they come in brand new, boy, if you don't get on a big team, you got to really do some work, right? And there's an irony that happened in 2020 for Mike Ferry. Our Mike Ferry coaching clients have had the largest percentage of our agents made more money than they've ever made in their entire career. COVID, right? No inventory. And our agents have made the largest amount of them made more money than they've ever made. And we're talking about 5 and 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 year coaching clients that had their largest income year ever last year. And you have to ask yourself, why is that happening? Okay, well, we are now in a window of time that you not only need to be highly skilled and have what we talked about today, but you need somebody pushing you in the back every single day, right? You need somebody going, get up. I know it's COVID, go to work. You need somebody that says, I don't want to hear you say low inventory again. I want you to say there's a glut of pendings. Okay, it's not low inventory, it's a glut of pendings. There's going to be 5 million sales in America this year, like normal, slightly above normal. What we have to appreciate is they're just selling so fast. So I have never seen a time where a real estate agent needs that, a helping hand, a push in the back, confrontation, challenged, accountability, scripts and dialogues, right? It's the most extreme environment that we've ever been that's required. But the good news is when you have that, you make the most money you've ever made in your life. And it's kind of an interesting dynamic right now. So, I work for Mike Ferry organization. There's a lot of coaching companies out there. There's some good ones. Choose a coach, pick one and stick. Okay. I can't say it enough about the trends in the real estate world today. You need someone to give you the push every week of your career, and you'll make a lot of money. Okay. No question about it. Questions? We've got a few minutes left. Typical Mike Ferry. Rick's heard this 1,000 times. You guys have this all figured out?
Yeah, exactly.
No,
they have, if I teach them I do something called success series, which is kind of like a prod school and an action workshop and a few other things mixed together. And I tell them if they just follow that canned presentation with the marketing tools and as we have as Berkshire Hathaway, everybody else that comes over is simply going to make you look even better.
So great.
Yeah.
It really is so great. The biggest challenge is you do have to, at some point, honest to God, personally address whatever issues you have about this. You have to have a little heart look in the mirror. I don't know what it is, but at some point you need to maybe consider having that little heart to heart with yourself and go, why do I have a hang up with adopting this? What
I think, Tony, I think what it is that most people think it's insincere. It's, I'm not being authentic. When actually, when you know what to say next, it allows you to be yourself, be funny, be relaxed when you're not thinking about what to say next. But until you actually go through that experience like you and I have and learned it, It's like I'm standing in the middle of Rome describing to you what it looks like, but you're in Chicago and I'm talking to you on the phone. You're never going to experience it the same way until you actually take the journey and do it. And that's what I try to get them to see.
Yeah.
I have a
Actually,
question.
yeah, sure, please. Thank you.
So I have never done a can presentation. I have done, a few presentations. But now that you have, how are you overcoming? I want to hear how, I know that when we go to our office meetings and stuff, they talk about the Zillow and the open door and the 1% commission and what have you. How are you overcoming that?
Yeah, so I can appreciate it. Today there's a lot of technology out there, isn't there? And there's a lot of things that are pointing towards, values on your home. And there's all these things. I'm sure if you've seen Redfin and Trulia and Zillow, and you've seen all these things. So I do have to ask you a couple questions, though, just honestly, though. How many homes do you think that Zillow's seen inside?
Exactly.
Do you think they ever see any homes inside? They don't, of course, right? And so you have to accept the fact that, yes, they have an algorithm that determines value, but they've never seen a house. Do you think that a house that's been smoked in for 20 years is worth more or less than one that hasn't? Okay. Do you think they ever do the next door neighbor's got a heavy metal rock band in there beating away on drums night and day? Do you think that that Zillow knows that or not? Okay, so you really have to appreciate, I love the technology and we want to use that, but how important is it that you hire someone like myself that is inside and out of homes every day, that understands the nuances of what to do and what not to do to get top dollar for your home? Do you think those kind of things are important in today's world? And so let's just get the best. What if we were to have really solid technology, which I'm going to show you, and the innate knowledge of being inside of a home, and we're to put those two things together? Now, have you got a winning combination? I'm so glad I'm here today. Let's get to work. Okay. It's just an objection handler. That's all it is.
Tony, this is George Rivero. I've just got a comment. I'm fairly new to the realtor side of the business. But I come from a fairly strong sales background. And I think, as you initially started describing this, and you call it a canned presentation,
right?
I was trained by Xerox. And in fact, we were using the same type of thing, scripting, et cetera. But when the concept of canned kind of gives somebody the impression that you're talking more than you're listening to. So I appreciate what you were saying and the way that this was built, that it's built to position you to prepare for the objections that are going to come your way. And so I think maybe, in considering the reasons why agents don't use one, I think that it's that they in an agent's mind, it might be too constrictive and too canned, so to speak, but it makes sense that the answers or the objections before they come to you. And so the way that it was created really makes sense.
Good. I'm so glad that you caught on to that piece, George, because it's such an important part of it. We joke around all the time. And so if anybody's had the luxury in my existence, I've had the luxury of both. Has anybody had the pleasure of eating Spam? Spam, it comes that yellow goo around it that, I'm not sure what that yellow goo is.
In the can.
Yeah, as a can. And as a kid, I used to eat Spam. That's what we had. And so this thing, comes sliding out of a can. And then for those of you that might have a taste of it, have you ever had the luxury of eating some really fine caviar? Okay, now if you have a taste for it, right? But the interesting part is they both come in a can. So you have to measure your presentation. Is it Spam? Does it have that yellow goo all around it? Oh, come here, honey. I love puppies. Oh my God, you've got soccer kids. I've got soccer kids. We should hug it out because we are like simpatico right now. Soccer moms all the way through. That goo that most sellers don't want, right? Right? There's a difference in the presentation, isn't there? Okay. Yeah.
Very true.
This is good stuff. Thank you, guys. I will come into your shop anytime you let me, Rick. And we're obviously as an elite broker, you're offering these things and all these discounts for all of our events, all of our discounts, 50% off all events. Did you know that we're going live to a superstar retreat this year? Okay, there it is, right? So Mike Ferry Superstar Retreat is going to be live. Okay, we've gotten approval for a live event in July. Okay. So for those of you that like and have been waiting and hoping for a group of great agents to get back together, that is going to happen July 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th of this July. It's going to be a live event at the Venetian here. We're hoping to have 3,000 or 4,000, exciting agents back together in a live
That'd be
environment.
great.
Okay. So you guys get into these things for half price because of part of what Rick has done for you. Okay. So when you see him, thank Rick for this, and then take advantage of it.
Great
we got
stuff.
workshops. Yeah, good.
It's great
Thank
stuff.
you,
We have a
guys.
lot of we have a lot of people here, Tony, that are in Mike Ferry coaching and also that come to my programs, and so they're overcoached and overtrained, which is impossible. But so
Time, Rick. Let's have a great time.
we
look
have
forward
some
to seeing
really
you out
top
there.
agents. I know Dana's in your coaching. There's a few people on here that are in your coaching already, so that's great.
Thank you. Well, we look forward to this relationship sticking forever and ever and ever. We're happy about it, and it's a win-win for all of us. Thank you
Absolutely.
guys for your time. Go out
Thank
and
you.
win.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it, my man.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Thank you. You too. We'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for showing up today.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank
My
you, Rick.
pleasure.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys. See you soon.